What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be having a deep look at the Tac Mask perk in Modern Warfare 3 because I have seen a lot of people mentioning that Tac Mask feels too weak and that it deserves a buff in this game. So we're first going to take a look at this, make sure we're armed with all of the correct facts, and then I'm going to be sharing my opinion on whether or not I feel Tac Mask needs an adjustment. And starting it off, let's have a look at what the description states for Tac Mask. It mentions that it reduces the strength of enemy flash, stun, and gas grenades. And then on top of this, apparently you have immunity to shock, EMP, and snapshot grenades. So let's start this off with stun grenades. And with this, stun grenades have three primary effects. First off, it blurs your vision a little bit, but you can still kind of see what's going on. It doesn't completely block out your vision. On top of that, it slows down your movement speed, and it slows your turn speed, so your ability to aim is also severely affected by stuns. And without Tac Mask, a stun grenade will last for roughly 2.5 seconds, whereas with Tac Mask, it cuts this down to roughly 1 second. So that's actually a pretty massive improvement here. You're of course still going to be affected by that stun grenade, but not for nearly as long as you would if you weren't using Tac Mask, and also the effect itself isn't quite as harsh when you're using Tac Mask. So that one's pretty straightforward. Now let's move on to flash grenades, and with this you have no vision, at least for part of the effect of the flash grenade, and on top of this you completely lose your heads-up display while that flash grenade is active, and that will last for the entire duration that the flash grenade is active on you. Whereas when it comes to the blacked out vision, it will black out completely initially, and then after a little bit of time you can kind of see what's going on, but it's a little blurry and still coming into focus. And without Tac Mask, you can't really see anything for about 2.4 seconds, and then after that 2.4 seconds, the flash grenade is still affecting you, but you can start to see what's in front of you a little bit after that mark, and you get your heads-up display back after about 3.6 seconds. So that's the total duration of the flash grenade. Whereas if you're using Tac Mask, you're only going to have a fully blacked out screen for about 1.4 seconds, so 1 full second less than if you weren't using Tac Mask, and then the full duration of this is 2.6 seconds. So again, exactly 1 second less than if you're not using Tac Mask. So when it comes to this, Tac Mask isn't quite as good against flash grenades as it is versus stun grenades, because with stun grenades, you're cutting that duration more than in half, whereas with a flashbang, you're not even cutting it in half, you're just reducing it by 1 second. As for the next counter, let's have a look at the gas grenade. And when it comes to the gas grenade, when you enter the radius of a gas grenade, without Tac Mask, there will be a little animation where you put your hand in front of your face, and during that time, you can hip fire, but you can't aim down sight, and it also pulls you out of a sprint and slows down your movement speed. To top that off, your vision is slightly blurred, but you can still generally see what you're shooting at just fine. And I would say the most punishing effect of this is the fact that you can't aim down sight with your gun, you're forced into a hip fire, and the duration of this animation where you're unable to aim down sight, this is roughly 2.6 seconds without Tac Mask. Whereas with Tac Mask against a gas grenade, it has very little impact on you. Your vision is still very slightly blurred, it appears your movement speed may be slowed down, but only by a very small margin. And honestly, it's possible it doesn't even slow you down at all, and it's just the blurred vision makes it feel like you're moving slower. And on top of this, there is no longer any animation whatsoever here, so you can aim down sight whenever you want if you're using Tac Mask in the radius of a gas grenade. So honestly, aside from that slightly blurred vision, you won't even really notice the effects of a gas grenade when using this perk. Next up in the description for Tac Mask, it states that you're immune to shock. So I tested with the shock stick, and with this, for those that may be unfamiliar, if you're within the radius of a shock stick, or if you get stuck by it, because it can stick to you, it will first off force you to fire your gun all the way till it's empty or until you exit the radius of that shock stick. If you get stuck by it, there's no exiting the radius, it sticks with you the entire time. And in this process, you can't aim down sight, you're forced into hip fire, and you also can't sprint. And the total duration of the effect on this is 5 seconds, assuming it's stuck to you. Again, if you get outside of the radius, the effect will stop after that. With Tac Mask though, you have full immunity to the shock stick. You can see here when it's thrown on the ground and you walk into the radius, it doesn't do anything. And then in this second clip here, I actually got stuck by the shock stick. It doesn't display anywhere on your body, but I promise you I was stuck by a shock stick. And again, there was zero impact whatsoever. It's like it just didn't exist. It just disappeared. So that's great to see. Tac Mask is a 100% full counter to a shock stick. And then finally, for throwable equipment that Tac Mask counters, we have these snapshot grenades. And we're going to be looking at this one from the perspective of the person throwing, not the person using Tac Mask. And as you can see here, when the enemy isn't using Tac Mask, if they're within the radius of a snapshot grenade that goes off, you will be able to see them glowing through walls for roughly 1 second. It's really not that long, it doesn't track with them for a very long time, but you will be able to see them through walls, and therefore you may be able to wallbang them. Whereas when they put Tac Mask on, you still get a hit marker, but you will get a special hit marker indicating that the enemy player is using Tac Mask, but there is no glowing effect whatsoever. You won't be able to see exactly where they are through the wall. You'll just be informed with that hit marker that there is an enemy somewhere in the radius of where your snapshot grenade went off. And that right there wraps it up for all of the throwable equipment that Tac Mask counters. However, they also mention in the description that Tac Mask will counter EMP. So the first thing I wanted to test here is the Stormender launcher, because this is an EMP style launcher that will have an EMP effect on you. And with this, when you're not using Tac Mask and you get shot by a Stormender, and there is also an area of effect, so you don't even have to be shot directly, they could shoot around your feet and you'll have the same effect, your heads-up display will be scrambled for a total of 5 seconds. Then when you put Tac Mask on, unfortunately, it doesn't do anything against the Stormender. It's the exact same effect. Your heads-up display will be scrambled for 5 seconds. So it appears that part's a bit of an oversight, since the description says that you should be immune to EMP effects, and that's clearly not the case with the Stormender. But I did want to test one last thing, and this is the EMP kill streak. Because again, according to the Tac Mask description, you should be immune to the EMP effect. And unfortunately, once again, Tac Mask does nothing against an EMP. So the effects of an EMP streak are no heads-up display for a total of 45 seconds. And this is literally no heads-up display whatsoever. You can't even see name tags above teammates or enemies' heads. You get no indicators whatsoever. Also, any electronics you have, those won't work while you're being EMP'd. And like I said, unfortunately, this is the same case with or without Tac Mask equipped. So I do believe this is just an oversight. I believe Tac Mask is meant to be completely countering the EMP effects, whether that's from the Stormender launcher or the EMP streak, but at the moment, it's doing nothing against these. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for the breakdown of the Tac Mask perk. Now I wanted to share my opinions on this and whether or not I think it should be buffed like many in the community are asking for. And I'll be honest, I think against most of the things that Tac Mask is meant to counter, like stun grenades, snapshots, shock sticks, tear gas, for instance, for all of those, I think Tac Mask is working just fine, and I'm perfectly happy with where it's at right now. In saying that though, I wouldn't be opposed to a bit of a buff with Tac Mask against flash grenades, since like I said, you're not seeing nearly as much improvement against flashbangs compared to stun grenades. And then on top of that, obviously, I would like to see Tac Mask working the way it's described, and I would like to see that immunity to EMPs, whether that's from the Stormender launcher or the EMP kill streak. I think if you're using Tac Mask, you should be completely immune to the effects of those, just like the description states. And again, I don't think this is an intentional thing. I think this was just a bit of an oversight on their end, and I suspect if we get this into the eyes of the devs, this is something they should be able to take care of and fix for us. Now, of course, these are just my opinions on the Tac Mask perk after taking a deep look and seeing exactly how it interacts compared to not using Tac Mask. And I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about this perk in the game's current state? Do you think it needs a buff across the board against everything? Or are you pretty happy with where it's at right now? Do you think maybe it just needs a buff against certain things like the flash grenade, for instance? And then also, how are you feeling about the fact that it doesn't counter the EMP effects, even though the description states that you should be immune to those? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.